Hi everyone, welcome to Sports Kabri with me, Adi and Rishi. Guys, interesting topic today. I think just there's something I think that we need to do to sort of spice up cricket a little more. I feel like the international game is dying down a little. I mean, it just feels like that, and it feels like almost you're just waiting for the IPL season to come around, and the internationals aren't as exciting as they used to be. Before we discuss the topic at hand, Rishi, do you think that's the case? Like, are you more excited, say, for an IPL season as opposed to, I don't know, a marquee Test series or a marquee ODI series between, say, in India, Australia, India, England, these kind of competitions?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm waiting for like just an IPL, but in general, yes, I feel, unless there are those, like you said, the showstopper ones like the Australia England or India Australia, or those showstopper absolute box office series. Unless that's the case, I feel the excitement levels have dimmed a little bit. It's generally a little bit dampened, and I don't personally think that it's just the weight or just the impact of T20 cricket. I feel that the concentration of quality players in itself has been restricted nowadays, at least to maybe say two or three countries. You feel two or three countries are dominating world cricket a lot more than back in the day. I feel that has a little bit more to do with this. That's probably why we're waiting for just say a particular England Australia, England India, Australia South Africa. So I feel that's got a little bit more to do with it.
I think, I mean, we'll discuss this very interesting, but do you think there's space for a football-like system where there's club football throughout the year, and I think the cricket equivalent for that, at least in India, is the IPL, right, or franchise cricket, so to speak. Do you think there's space for something like that with an international tournament like, say, a World Cup, or you can have, or I mean, a World Cup is obviously once in 4 years, but maybe in the years that you don't have World Cup, you have marquee sort of Test series or marquee ODI competition, something like that. Do you think there's something that can happen like that in cricket as well, or do you think it's just the way the sport is set up, it's just not possible?
Oh, sorry, you were asking me. I thought. Anyways, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
when you talk about these sports, right? I think when you look at football, the reason they have like so-called club football, etc. I think it's more because of the history of the sport itself, where the football originated with small group of factories or workers joining into so-called forming football clubs to just play around.
yeah.
And over time it's become a tradition where football club they understood how to monetize the so-called closed leagues or any form of divisions in football, and they grew over the years. I think if you want us to start that, I don't think it's possible. Firstly, because of how much of history is there in each football club. You don't sit here and just create new football clubs in a year kind of thing. It's been developed very organically. But one more problem will be for cricket is, I think we have three different formats, right? If you talk about any other sport, it's a single format. You talk about other franchise sports like basketball, it's always in a close
It's the
league in
same thing.
NBA, which is like one form of basketball. You look at football, it's one form of football. You look at maybe other team sports like hockey, etc., where again you have only one form of sport. But in cricket, we have three different formats. And if you talk about traditionally, test matches are where cricket grew and into the sport of 50 overs and now T20s, right? So I think it's difficult in that form. And one more thing I think will be difficulties you can face is, again, if you can't, I don't think we can have IPL, then CPL. I mean, we do have it over the year. Look at the calendar right now. You do have franchise cricket there already. Like we have CPL, we have MLC now coming up. We have the Big Bash, we have the IPL, we have the Pakistan Premier League also. So like you have like a lot of franchise crickets going. But if cricket wants to turn into a so-called like football structure where you have, out of the 12 months, you have 6 months or 8 months in franchise cricket and then 4 months or something in international cricket, I think it can potentially be more revenue generating compared to what it is now. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I think if
yeah.
you have a full full-fledged, something like a Premier League, something like a La Liga, whatever it is, like a league system, and all the big teams, maybe you have now we have like 10 IPL teams. So you make how would it work? I think if you have like maybe 15 teams all over the world, and then you have franchises all over the world, and then they play together, maybe that's how it could work. Because I don't think you can have difference with like IPL, and then you have CPL, then you have
Yeah, that won't be possible.
yeah.
That's not possible.
and and one more difficulty might be trying to agree for all the nations to come in together and creating, because at the end of the day, the reason why we have IPL, even South Africa started their own franchise league, is because of the money they can see. The reason BCCI grew is because of IPL, and the money generated there is more than what you can generate from a Australia series or a tour of West Indies, especially when you think about that. So I think maybe franchise cricket can actually, if we can take the conversation, can franchise cricket actually save, these so-called dying nations like Sri Lanka, maybe even West Indies, also help, upcoming countries like Netherlands, USA. I think franchise cricket actually has a good shot to help these countries and, generate more income, then they can invest into their own academies, grassroots, etc., better stadiums. I think this is a possibility which, even though as traditional cricket fans, we might be like, yeah, we don't want this. But if you want to look at the overall growth of the sport and the way the sport is going, this can be a good shot to make money for all nations, and then grow the
Hmm.
entire nation, especially cricket wise.
But I just don't think it's possible because, for the simple fact that, dude, in cricket, the talent pool is kind of limited. If you compare it to football, you get players from everywhere. You're all across Europe, Asia. You get South Americans playing, Africa. Everyone, literally everyone plays football. And the talent pool is so much more. Here in cricket, it's so concentrated. Now, if you have the BBL and IPL happening together, basically throughout the year, players are most likely going to want to come and play the IPL because it's the best league. But which nation will be okay with their top talent going away and say playing in the IPL? For example, why will South Africa, like the South African cricket board or the Australian cricket board or ECB, why will they say, okay, you know what, let all our top players, Joss Butlers, all the Quinton de Kooks, kind of Classens go and play in the IPL when they're not going to get to play in their own, and they don't get to play in their own sort of domestic leagues. I think that becomes a real problem because then the talent pool is limited, reduced. You have sort of, again, it's not going to be the best quality. Again, everything I think will shift to the IPL. But yeah, Rishi, is there any way you think this kind of idea can sneak in? Because it just seems so hard. Like the challenges are way too much.
For sure, there can be, scope, but it for sure is not going to happen over a fortnight, or like, it's not a short-term project. It's going to be, you're going to have to lay the foundations for, say, a 5 year or a 10 year or a 15 year or a 20 year plan. Because, even football, the football that we see, the structures that exist today, the kind of organizations that exist today, the different, it's not just tier one football in every country. There are five, six, seven, eight tiers in every country. So that didn't happen overnight. It happened over decades and centuries. So, if we are to replicate that, if we are to even come remotely close, it's going to be a long term project for sure. Because like you can say that there is club cricket probably, or you can say 8 to 9 months out of 12 without counting the ICC international tournaments. There are club franchise cricket like tournaments happening all around the globe. It's just that, like you said, the same pool of players are going and playing pretty much 80% or
Exactly.
70% of the players are going and playing everywhere. So it's, you're just mixing and matching. It's like musical chairs happening in cricket. That's, I feel, you lose a little bit of thrill in that. Like I'm seeing Trent Bolt coming and bowling for Rajasthan, and then I'm watching him bowl for MI New York. It's the same
Yeah.
thing all over again. So where's the excitement? Where's that new source of entertainment? So I feel that is a little bit lost.
But
And
but but when you guys look at football, it's the same, right? Like when you're looking at your football teams, you still watch the same team, even if it's a preseason friendly or FA
No,
Cup,
no,
any
no,
other
no,
thing.
no.
It's still
But
the
Adi
but
is playing for two different
Adi,
teams.
see,
Like
so I'm not.
But
See,
you
imagine,
know
say,
what?
Kylian Mbappe is playing for Real Madrid half, like
and
say,
for
like 3 months,
PSG or
and then
something.
he comes and plays for United 3 months
Yeah,
where
exactly,
nothing big
exactly that.
happens, and then
That
he
would
goes
be
and
exciting
for
rather than not.
Bundesliga.
But that's not the same thing, right? That's what I'm saying. For example, see, I think that's an easy solution can be found. If you talk about franchise cricket again, I think at the end of the day, majorly it comes down to IPL. I think that's the biggest franchise cricket in the entire world. And you can also see Indian franchises owning, in the Caribbean Premier League, even in, now MLC. You also have like in the SA T20 also. You have IPL franchises there already. I think it's not going to be, for example, at least, my idea could be for cricket in terms of, you create your 10, 12 IPL teams itself, because I think that's where the money is there and that's where the foundation is there anyways. When you look at in cricket, I think major views come from India. At the end of the day, I think you have foreign fans also supporting like RCB compared to their own this thing. I know for a fact you have a lot of South African fans, huge supporters of RCB. You can find that in England, etc. Right? So you can just create your so-called. You already have 10 franchises in IPL. I think at least my idea would be if you want to put in money and effort into franchise, you have the same 8 teams, and you play so-called tours every 2 months, right? You can put like an Austria tour of the same IPL franchises, then they
Yeah,
shift to
actually, that.
India, then they
Yeah.
shift to England, because England is the only other place. Like you have a tour, you have like Australia, New Zealand tour, then you come to India IPL tour, then you go to England because that's the only European country that plays like an England tour of another 2 months, and then you go to the Caribbeans, like Caribbean. You can put US and Caribbean. I mean, the West Indies. It worked out already. So if you can merge, that's the thing. I think it's going to be very huge because you need all the cricket boards to come into it, ICC to approve it. But if you can do that, I think there's more money making in that than just simply, having an India tour of Sri Lanka, India tour of
Yeah.
Zimbabwe. But the point is like, it also helps the so-called, if West Indies get some investment like this, it's going to help their cricket. It's going to help them revive their cricket. It's going to help US revive their cricket. Maybe even countries like New Zealand. Maybe even you can get in again. South Africa is also there. So you have a lot of countries who can revive their cricket. And the more money these boards make, they can again put it back into the international form. Your grassroots. You know, even the so-called IPL teams will try to grow more players in their own league, get more players up from their own ranks, and this will help cricket overall. So then, you have an 8 month period or 7 month period of IPL cricket, franchise cricket. Then you come for a 4 month period of like purely international cricket. I think it's going to be more fun because then playing for India has more value, because right now, for example, playing of India, you have India A team, India B team, India C team. Like you have 3 different teams, and like you look at even in football, like if you're getting a national call up, it's so much more valuable because you only get to play once or twice in 2 months, 3 months, because you have international breaks very slow, in a very short period. When that happens, you also like England. You'll want to watch the England games more because you have a very short window of period, and the players will also work harder because now they have franchise cricket to show more talent. Plus, they have a short window of time where they can sit and play. I mean, represent the country, play for the country, and it becomes more valuable than you watching India for like at least 4 months. It's going to be more of excitement. Watching Australia for 1 month is going to be more of excitement. So I don't know. For me, I always felt like this can, if it can work, and if you have the right foundations, I think it can be a super hit for cricket, especially how it happens in football, anyways.
Bro, I'm completely on board with the idea. Like this, it actually seems fascinating, which is to go to different countries, all the cricket playing nations,
See, one thing,
major ones at
just
least.
to add to what Adi
Yeah.
said, like we can keep like say every team plays 5 games in each country, like say 5 games in
Yeah,
New
yeah. So
Zealand, 5 games
basically
in
that.
Australia,
Yeah.
and end of the year you have a league table and whatever you want, you can have a round robin
Right.
after that,
Yeah.
knockout, or yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But then again, it's just the talent pool is going to be very restricted. The talent pool, we're going to have to like
No, but you can expand, right?
reduce it.
If you're ending up playing, bro, at the end of the day, even you look at right now, the talent pool is all limited to 8 countries, maybe 9 countries, 10 countries if you
Yeah.
want to put it. You can always expand. Now we have like maybe 10 IPL teams. We can expand it maybe to 14 teams.
Yeah.
We have more
Bro,
space. Like
there's another issue. Even if you do expand it, like I think the idea is great, but again, now will the BCCI be so selfless to say, I
exactly.
will
That's
let
a that's
it go. My entire tournament, baby, let it go. Share all this revenue with everyone else. And also, dude, like, of course, if we're doing this, we can't have the foreigner rule anymore. Like, if this
Hmm.
happens, you're playing with a world 11. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
club football,
exactly.
basically. You play with whoever
Yeah.
you have. And I
I
think that
think
becomes challenging
that's a challenge for
for
sure,
BCI
but
to say, okay.
But I think, see, dude, you know, it's going to be very nuanced. That's the thing. Cricket is so tough
Mm.
because you don't have private leagues. Like, I think cricket is a sport where it needs India to thrive for the entire country, entire sport to thrive. Because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
money is
100%.
it's so much clogged up in India. Like, you can't expand it to the world, and that's what I'm trying to say. Because, but if you look at football or if you look at any other sport, you have like teams all over the world. It's like in football, it's European, and you have other teams, and again, you have other teams everywhere. But cricket is a very niche sport. You can't help it. But I think like if BCCI, bro, I think they can come into a solution because again, what's the issue with BCCI? Majorly, they don't let Indian players play anywhere else apart from IPL, right? So there itself, they need to be more, open to it.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
in issues like allowing maybe Pakistan players to come and play in India, maybe that can become an issue. Who knows?
Oh, Indian players going to Pakistan will become another issue. Rishi
Yeah.
That's
fans.
the thing. But I don't think that can ever happen. So like, you will have to maybe have a neutral like Abu Dhabi league. Maybe that's where the Pakistan tour or whatever happens. But bro. But if you think about it, like you only think like, would you rather have franchise cricket, which at the end of the day, IPL cricket is very fun compared to like watching tour of Zimbabwe, etc. Imagine on the same weekend if you had like an IPL game going on over like a tour of Zimbabwe, you end up watching that game anyways, right?
100%. 100%.
And but like, bro, that's the thing. If BCs, I feel like they can still, you look how the revenue share right now. It's basically IPL is owned by BCCI. So whatever IPL makes the money, BCCI keeps it, right? And they move on. Like when India tour to other countries, BCCI again makes a huge share. Anyways, I think that thing can be sorted out because, for example, each country will have their own tour. So if you're playing your so-called franchise cricket in Australia, but under the same names of IPL teams, they can keep a percentage of share, and then BCCI can get it. You go to South Africa, you get a percentage of share. BCCI keep. I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
like BCCI can still get more money by taking from other leagues also when you think about
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Poss-
right now it's only limited to IPL, but if
Basically, it's
they're
basically going to be IPL but year long. So it's definitely going to be more
exactly,
money.
yeah, they're able to take from South Africa at least 5-10%. So that IPL, then they're going to add another 10% from each country, like South Africa,
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
in Australia, maybe
No,
in
I
England.
again like there's we don't have
It's
enough
very
time as well.
nuanced. It's very tough to
It is,
like
but I think there's
make
a lot
us.
of stuff to discuss. Like as in especially, dude, I think there's so much more to it. Like that I think you can go on about this topic for 40 minutes because there's so many layers. Like for example, like we don't have time to get into everything, but for instance, supporters. How do you become a supporter? Like for example, we're RCB fans because we're all from Like for example, RCB fans majority are from Bangalore, and that's why you support RCB. Or like, how are you going to back a team for an entire year that has no association with anything?
Bro,
And
but that's the same thing in football,
See
no?
that
There
that
is
happens in football.
association
Now you
with
have
true, true,
you.
true. I
you have an
agree. I
Arsenal
agree.
fan,
But
United fan coming from Bangalore.
that,
So like
Yeah.
But here you
And
have something like, bro, again, it comes back to like, first of all, the same players, like for example, RCB team, when they be touring, see, we still love RCB. If they're playing in India or if they're playing in Australia, we're still going to
correct.
support RCB, right? It's the same
Yeah,
logic.
yeah.
So, for example, the same RCB team is playing an Australia tour. We still like the so called Australia League
No,
or
no, I
whatever.
get it, but the same franchise has to exist. Like
Yeah,
how are we
that's the thing.
so sure that
You know what I mean, like, bro. You see, it's already there right now. For example,
hmm,
KKR is there. Then you have so-called LA KKR. Then you have in the West Indies some other kind of KKR. You have same with MICSK. You
no, no,
can
I
do that. I
understand that.
think. I think it's going to be the same thing, right? You're still going to support the same. Like it's for example,
Maybe.
it's Royal Challengers in Bangalore. Maybe in Australia, it's Royal Challengers Brisbane or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you'd still want to support it because it's your team. It's just the so-called name changes here.
Hmm.
Brisbane from
I
Bangalore
still
changes.
feel like I think you'll have to stick to one name or like one team and the same team tours. Anyway, then there's more. I feel like there's again a lot more. Again, you talk about Test cricket, you talk about where Test cricket goes with this kind of format coming in. It becomes really
exactly.
complicated. And I mean, it's an idea. It's fair enough.
But don't you think like this kind of format can save cricket and can bring in more revenue to other teams? Because
No, it can definitely
you
bring in more revenue,
you
dude. But
see
like,
you
It
see
can
right
bring in
now
revenue for cricket boards, but from a national
what
perspective, how is it
you
helping
I'll
flourish?
tell you I'll tell
Test
you we'll take
cricket
the
will
example
die.
of SA T20 because we know SA South African board were literally bankrupt at a point of time until like SA T20 came in. And when SA T20 came in, they got investors from IPL again. Basically IPL teams own the SA T20 league, like in terms of
True.
teams. And they were like, let's see how this goes on. And within the first year, this was the first year they played. They were already they broke even. Next year they can make profits on it. And
No, no,
you
but
see how much.
where do you play Test cricket? Like, where's the
No,
space
no,
for something?
I'm saying like, bro, that's the thing. See, at the end of the day, you can have 8 months of. I'm not saying the entire year is. Like, you can have 8 months of, so-called franchise cricket. You still have another 4 months of, your
Hmm.
so-called test cricket. I
Yeah,
think if
yeah.
you can, it's going to be tough for sure. Like, but the lucky thing with cricket, you don't need a huge window like football because, for example, football game happens 1 week, you rest for another 1 week to play, right? For cricket, you can rest for 2-3 days and then play again. So you can, if you're able to finish each tournament within, you have like 5 tours, maybe Australia, countries, Australia, New Zealand, then an India, Sri Lanka tour, maybe. And then you can have like a South Africa tour, England tour, and the Caribbean tour. There's like five. If you can squeeze that at least in 6 months, and maybe the next 4 months you play at least international cricket, I think you can do something, bro. I feel like
Yeah, yeah.
over time you can still grow. But I feel like this can help a lot of boards be revived, and also it can help countries like US, small nations who are coming up, also get into cricket and get more money out of it, and invest back into the
See, for
so-called.
this, like I think with this, definitely you're going to increase the popularity of sport. You're going to generate more revenues, but like I feel this is going to tamper or damage the at least Test cricket from my like whatever I feel, because you see right now itself with the limited window that IPL has, with the limited window that other T20 leagues have, like you see almost a fair share of players are already prioritizing the limited overs cricket. So now, when you're already going to shorten the window to 4 months of Test cricket, what is the incentive? Like, where are the Test specialists going to come? Like, why
But
are
Yeah,
people even going to want to play Test cricket? Because eight
yeah.
months they're
That's
going to be paid considerably high amounts. Like the fees that they're going to be paid is not even in the same scale. So now, are we talking Test matches also from a club perspective, or are we talking Test matches from an international perspective?
no.
but
I'll
you
tell
already
you.
have test matches playing, right? For example, now also you see India. When was the last time you saw India tour play test match? It was in the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And now the next time they play is in the end of the year. Because at the end of the day, you see every country, maybe 3 months, 4 months maximum in a year, they play test matches, right? But apart
Mm-hmm.
from that, they're again playing meaningless ODI games, meaningless T20 series. Do you guys see? Let me tell you. Do you guys
No,
remember?
no, Adi, but the thing is, like, they still get, I think, a fair bit from their domestic circuits. That's why you even in the off like test season, you can still go back to domestic, play for
Yeah,
your
but that will
state.
continue. Like for example,
No,
your
that
youth
continues,
level.
but I just feel like with the
Like,
amount of like,
where's the
if
incentive
more
to
and more
continue
players are
for
getting into this, it'll sort of coincide with the domestic schedule, and you'll have players playing the shorter format
Now
more,
you know
even if they
what
are good test players.
is going to happen. Now you're saying T20s are going to take over the entire year, right? Like 6 months of the year.
that?
You realize it's already happening now. For example, I'll tell you, it's already happening in cricket right now. You look at what we've had till now, right? These guys came, played IPL, right? Then they transferred into your ICC T20 World Cup. Past since April, when is that? March. They played
No, Adi, that's
IPL.
the point. The players like Rian, like for example, Rian Parag, who doesn't play for India, will still go back to domestic and play. But here he will be playing 7 6 7 months completely, so he will not go and play for a state. That's the difference.
My point is again, so when you're done, right, those 4 months, maybe Riyan Parag has to play for the so-called Ranji trophies, whatever it is, because that's the period where they'll go back to international cricket, county cricket, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
You look at now also, like for example, if you're saying T20 will take over, it's already taken over because we have again. You look at these guys, they played IPL, they went to US to play the T20 World Cup. Now they're playing the MLC. After that, they're going to go to the Caribbean Premier League to play the Caribbean Premier League. So it's always going to be there. It's never going to stop. And I
Mm.
feel like franchise cricket has already taken over because you see the money is there in big. After that, again, Big Bash also starts. So these guys come back to play Big Bash. So you see, it's already only thing is Big Bash. Australians don't take that seriously, luckily, because that's the summertime. They generally have Test cricket going on at that time, right? But when you look at it, it's already so diluted Test match. I mean, sorry, T20s. It's very diluted. You always have T20 going on. You see India, they just played a 5-game T20 series against Zimbabwe, which was meaningless. replay the same 5 games with a franchise cricket, maybe you would have had more views, you would have had more money in it. And again, that's where it comes back to like, okay, more money, maybe your quality also reduce. I can't say it, but it's for sure going to revive cricket, as at least in terms of maybe making more money, maybe making more, getting more views, growing the sport, etc. I mean, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Guys, let us know your thoughts on whether cricket can start following a football style format, like something like what we've thrown out. Not exactly like football, but at least kind of mimic the club style or the franchise style a little more.
Yes.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts, guys. Thanks, Rishi Adi, for joining. Like and share the video, subscribe to Sports Company, and we'll see you soon.